Hi everyone and welcome to the What's New webinar for the latest version of Mission Control. Version 1.55 is released onto the App Exchange as of the 28th of August 2020, and we're going to jump in and take a look at all the new features. So we've got a couple of brand new features, and then we've got some enhancements being made to existing functionality. So the two new things that we're going to take a look at are the Meeting Manager and Storyboard, and then we've also made some enhancements to the Scheduler, Gantt chart, Role Utilization report, the Kanban Whiteboard, and the Reassignment Wizard. So let's jump in and take a look. So we're super excited to announce the launch of the Meeting Manager. So this is a productivity tool that is going to allow you to keep a track of your meetings with your teams, whether you're meeting in person or virtually. You can track the agenda, as well as keeping a track of attendees and those that were an apology. You can also keep a record of any discussions that were held and issue tasks that have come up as a result. And one of the key things on the Meeting Manager is you're actually able to record your time for all attendees very quickly and efficiently. So as part of this new functionality, there's a meeting manager component, which we're going to take a look at during the demo. But underlying that, there are a range of new objects. So the new objects that are being added into the package are the meeting manager, which is a container for all of your meetings. Then you've got your individual meetings. And then within the meeting, you can keep a track of the attendees and the agenda items. And then under each agenda item, you can create agenda tasks. So another new feature that we've got is the storyboard. So this plugs a gap between the program planner and the project builder. So as you're using that program planner and you're building out all of your requirements and user stories, when you start to work out what's going to get delivered onto each individual project, you might need to adjust which user stories are going to be included. So this storyboard lets you actually, you can build out new requirements directly from the storyboard. You can also create new user stories, but it really allows you to drag and drop and really build out the story map journey of particular features. And so it really gives you the ability to organize the user stories in context of those requirements and reparent them user stories to the appropriate requirement if required as well. Okay, so looking at some of the enhancements that we've made for the scheduler, we've added in an additional view option where you can see the financials. So looking at the billable revenue that is going to result from the work that has been assigned to each resource. The Gantt chart has had a number of enhancements. So one key thing we're really excited to announce is we're adding in the ability to view a work breakdown structure and the ability to create predecessors directly within the data table. You can also visually see the time log clock icon within the data table, so you can quickly access the time logging component, but also identify whether you're actively tracking time against any of those actions. We've also got the ability to export the data table as a CSV export, and global holidays are now going to be visually displayed on the Gantt chart as well. So a few things on the role utilization report. We've added in a third set of data. So previously you were able to track the overall utilization and the billable performance. We had a few requests from people saying, look, I don't necessarily use I don't track billable performance, but what I would like to see is how my resources have performed against the scheduled effort that I allocated to them. So you've now got the three options of looking at utilization, billable performance, and scheduled performance. And to give you the ability to customize what you're looking at, you can also turn on or off each one of those metrics. So the obviously the Kanban whiteboard got the new version of that got introduced in our previous release, and we've just added a bit more functionality to that. So had a few requests around having the ability to control the sort order of the action. So we've given you the ability to control that independently. There's a couple of additional filter options. We've adjusted the priority order field. So previously, if you were to drag it up or down, it would just adjust the priority order of the records within the column. But if you dragged it from left to right, it would also adjust the priority within that new column. So what we've done is actually, we've retained the logic that if you're moving an action up or down within an existing column, it will adjust the priority. But if you move it to a new column, it's not going to adjust any logic, the priority order for any of the existing fields. And the other feature that we've added on to the whiteboard is bringing in that Whiteboard Anywhere. So similar to the Gantt chart, you've now got the ability to add the whiteboard onto any any page that is a parent to the project. So for example, you might add the whiteboard to the account page or the opportunity page. And what that would do is filter in all of the actions that relate to any projects relating to that parent record. And finally, again, just taking in some feedback from customers on the Reassignment Wizard. Previously, it did a mass transfer. So if you had one person owning something on a project and you moved it to another person, it would transfer all records of that kind. So for example, if I transferred the action owner from Kelly to Mick would be the action owner for every single action on that project that Kelly had previously owned. Now what we've done is given you the ability to specify actions based on status. So for example, anything that is completed by Kelly, we might not necessarily want to transfer. So we're only going to transfer planned and in progress actions. The other enhancement to this page is it can now be used in context of a role record. So previously it was only in context of a project, whereas now, so for example, if we have someone leave the organization or temporarily go on sick leave, what we can do is go to their role record and then do a mass transfer of any actions over to another member of the team. Okay, so what we're going to do now is jump in and start taking a closer look at some of these features. So first of all, we're going to take a look at the meeting manager. So as a reminder, this is a tool that's going to enable you to collaborate with your team across a series of meetings. So first of all, from the console on the Launchpad, you've got a new tile here that says you're able to create a new meeting manager. So I'm going to create a new meeting manager from scratch. So in this example, it's going to be to keep across what's going on with the product development team. So I create my new meeting and then I land onto the meeting manager. And within the meeting manager, I can create my meeting. So the first meeting I'm going to create is going to be for tomorrow. So this is going to be our first stand-up that we're going to have on this meeting manager. So I'm going to specify the date. I can indicate what time it's going to start and finish. And I can put in a location. So I'm just going to say we're meeting on Zoom, put in some objectives. If I tick the event box, what that will do is create as well as creating a record in the meeting object, it's also going to create a Salesforce event. And then any attendees that I add, so my attendees are my role records in Mission Control. So any roles that link to users will be automatically associated to that event as well. So now that I've got the meeting, what I can start to do is build out the items that we're going to be discussing. So using this agenda builder, I can say we're going to be talking about the Gantt chart. So just add that straight in. We might also talk about the Kanban board. We're going to look at the timesheet and we're going to look at billing management. So who do I need to come to that meeting? So I'm going to be in attendance. So I add myself. I'm also going to have Chris come, and we'll be having a few others with us as well. Okay, so saving that, what that will do is create the meeting. It will also create the agenda items and the attendees. Okay, so once I've saved all of that, it lands me back onto the meeting manager. I can see my meeting in the timeline, and you can see that I'm on the attendees page. So I can click on to, if I have multiple meetings, I can click onto the eye to view the detail of that particular meeting. I can also get in and edit that from here. So let's imagine we're now actually in process of having this meeting. So what I can do is identify who's actually in attendance. So I'm going to say, right, so Amy, Colin, and Chris both attended, all attended, but Mick was an apology. I can identify the reason why. So I've recorded my attendees. So now what I can do is switch over to my agenda tab, and that's where we see exactly what we're going to be talking about. So just to familiarize you with the layout, so we've got our agenda items down here. We can move them up and down by priority, or we can delete them if they're no longer required. We can also add new agenda items here. What I can also do for each individual agenda item, I can track the notes that are around our discussions in the summary field. I can save that. I can choose to either resolve this item or include it on the next meeting. So we'll cover that off in a moment, and we've also got the ability to enter new tasks down here. Over on the right-hand side, and this is a really important feature, is the ability to associate these discussions with a particular action on a project. And the benefit of doing that is you're able to easily log time for each individual attendee in one process. So for example, let's say we're talking about the Gantt chart, and the team wants to investigate the ability to have a work breakdown structure. So we're just keeping notes of what's been said. We haven't resolved that, so we're going to include it on next week's meeting. So I'll save that detail there, but I also want to assign an action to someone I also want to create a task for someone to actually keep a track of that. So again, I'm going to leave that for the next meeting. So what I can now do is say, right, which project were we talking about when we were dealing with this item? So I can select a project, I can select a particular action, I can select an action. Sorry, I can select a project milestone and a particular action. So once I've done that, I can either record the time that I've already done, or I can actually start tracking time. So if I click the clock down the bottom here, that lets me, that starts the timer, so we can have our discussion, and then when we're done, we click stop and move on to the next one. What I'm going to do in this example is actually just say we've just recorded, we've just spent 15 minutes talking about this, and then we'll just put in some notes. And I'm going to leave that as billable, so I won't tick the boxes for anyone. So if I save that, what that does is associates the action to that agenda item. So every time we come back to that in future weeks, we'll be recording that. And it's also gone off and logged a 15-minute time entry for each one of those people that are in attendance. So we can also now jump onto our next agenda item. So we might talk about this, and we decide that this one's resolved and it doesn't need to be included on next week's meeting. And then we'll finish off by talking about the other items. So gives you the ability to obviously record that information at that agenda item level, track your time. Now, let's imagine we're ready to start scheduling another meeting. Now, I don't want to have to build that out from scratch for next week. So what I can do is just create a new meeting, but instead of building it all out from scratch, I can actually just load in an existing meeting. So I'm going to use last week's meeting and load that. So what this does is obviously loads in all of the information. So a few little changes I might want to make. So I'll change the date, for example, and schedule that out to the 4th. What it's done is loaded in the agenda items, but it's excluded anything that has already been resolved. So obviously our Kanban whiteboard doesn't need to be carried over because we've already resolved that as an agenda item. And it's also adding in all of the other team members. So very quickly, I'm able to build out my agenda for next week based on the outcomes of what's happened during this week. So that you can see I've now got my second meeting, the agenda items. It's carried over any notes and action, any notes and tasks from the prior week, so we can either continue to discuss those or resolve them. Now we've just built out a new meeting manager from the Launchpad, so that landed us onto the meeting manager component. But let's say we want to access the meeting manager for an existing meeting that we've got going on. So in that instance, what we can do is jump over to the management pad, and then you'll see a new tile here that gives you access to select which meeting manager you want to view, and then to get through to the meeting manager. So clicking in, I'm able to select from my existing meeting managers, and then select which one I want to go and view, jump into the meeting manager, and then I'm back onto that page where I can jump in and take a look at the individual meetings. So we're now going to take a look at the storyboard. So just to put that into context, so the storyboard gives you the ability to organize the user stories in context of requirements. So you'll be familiar with the program planner here. So I've got an example where I'm managing the roadmap of mission control. And obviously I've got all of my various requirements. Now within some of these requirements, I've built out user stories. And you can see I've got a number of different requirements relating to the Gantt chart. So if I click in to that requirement, I can view the detail of the requirement, but I can also get through to the detail of the underlying user stories as well. So obviously, as a type of persona, I want to do this so that I can do that, and what the acceptance criteria is along with the effort. So what I'm able to do is actually, so using the storyboard, I can actually reparent some of those user stories. So for example, based on everything that I've got to get done within this release, I might not have capacity to deliver all 3 user stories. So I might need to reparent to one of the other subsequent releases. And that's really where the storyboard comes in. So let's jump in and take a look at that. So from the management pad, I can access my storyboard. So I select the program. So we're looking at the storyboard in context of a particular program. So I'm going to load that. Now, first of all, what it's going to do is ask me to apply a filter. So it returns the relevant requirements that we want to look at. So I can have some preset filters, so I can apply filters, save them for ongoing use. I could, for example, say I only want to look at requirements relating to a particular project. In this example, what I'm going to say is I just want to look at any requirement where the name contains the word Gantt. So I apply that filter. So I've now got four requirements visible here, and within each one I can see the user stories that are relating to that requirement. So a few different things here. I can click on this icon here, and that will give me access to that requirements modal. So what we were just looking at on the program planner, I can access the requirement, the user stories, and the checklists. What I can also do is see within each individual user story, I can collaborate on chatter. So opening up that modal will give me the ability to either collaborate at the user story level or at the requirement level. I'm also able to access the checklist item manager. So using checklists in context of a user story really gives you the opportunity to identify the testing scenarios that you need to verify in order to say that that user story was delivered. So this gives you the opportunity to build out those checklist items in context of the user story. And then I can get in and view the individual user story in more detail. I can edit for more, to add more information, or I can delete that if it's no longer required. Over on the right-hand side, I've got the ability to add requirements or user stories. So what I'm actually going to do is just add a new requirement to this program. So I'm going to put that into the backlog to start with, and I'm just going to give it the same name of Gantt chart enhancements. So relating that to our mission control roadmap program. So if I scroll down, I can save that requirement. So that gets added on. Obviously, I can see it's part of the backlog. What I can also do is actually create new user stories as well. So I can specify, it's identified what the summary is. I can relate it to a requirement. Now, what I'm going to do is actually relate it to this requirement we've just created. So I can specify what persona this this user story relates to. But the two main things really are the statement of I want to so that I can. So I'm going to put in here I want to export Gantt chart as PDF so that I can share it with my customers. So if I scroll down and save that, so that creates the user story relating to the Gantt chart enhancements requirement that is sitting in the backlog. Now, I might have just met with the team, and we've decided that this is a bigger priority, and we need to bring that into to the immediate release. So what I'm going to do is actually drag that into the April 20 requirement. So just dragging that over reparents that from one requirement to the other. Now, as a result of making this a priority, what I might need to do is actually take something out of this, because based on everything else we've got going on within this release, we can't deliver all 4 of these user stories. So in that instance, what I'm going to do is actually just grab this one and push that out to December. So able to build out that story map of what individual features are going to get delivered within the requirements within a particular release of new functionality. So we've added in an additional view option to the scheduler. So you'll see here that we've got the ability to now access this financials tab on the scheduler. So what this gives us insight into is, based on the work that's been assigned to each resource over these periods of time, what revenue is that going to result in? So the color coding is based on the hours shading, as is already on the scheduler. So whether that person is over capacity, within capacity, or sort of under allocated, it will display red, amber, or green. So obviously you can see here that Blake is expected to be generating $2,000 worth of revenue on these 2 days. However, the fact that it's red indicates that he's over allocated, so we might want to look at that, and is not necessarily reflective of what he will achieve. But this gives you the idea of what that revenue distribution looks like at an individual resource across a period of time. We've made a few different enhancements to the Gantt chart as well, so we're going to dive in and take a look at those. So first feature is we've added in a new function within the data table section where you can view the work breakdown structure and the predecessor columns. So this is a really productive way of creating dependencies. So each level of the project is given its own work breakdown structure number, and then what we can do is, using the predecessors, we can create dependencies. So rather than actually having to drag and drop to create dependencies on the actual Gantt chart, you can use this column within the data table. Now, first of all, to make these 2 columns appear within the settings, you'll just need to make sure that the WBS and predecessors setting is turned on. So now that I've actually got these columns displayed, what it allows me to do is actually come into each individual record and create dependencies. So for example, if I want Design UI to be in a finish to start relationship with Design Wireframes, I simply just put in the code, the WBS code for the Design Wireframes action, and then hit enter. And you'll see over on the right, that's creating a dependency for me between those 2. Now, for example, client approval, I might want to make that a start to start with the Design UI. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is put in the WBS code for Design UI, but I'm going to add in the initials SS, indicating start to start. So that creates the start to start relationship between these 2. So by default, we're adding in, if you don't put in a code, it's just going to be a default finish to start, but you can add in a start to start. Now, what you can also do is actually add in a predecessor relationship with some lead time as well. So for example, build page content might be on a finish to start relationship with build framework, but I want to give a two-day lead time between that. So in this instance, I'm going to create the WBS, and then I'm going to put a +2 in that. So what that does is creates the relationship, but it also creates that 2-day lead time between those 2 actions as well. So hopefully you'll enjoy a super efficient way of creating your dependencies through that predecessors column. Another function that we've added in, now you could always log time on the Gantt chart by just double clicking into the record and accessing the log time component. What we've done just to make that more accessible is include access to the clock here within all of the actions. So if I want to log time against this action, I can simply click on the clock here. That's going to open up the log time modal. So I can either record what I've already done or use the start stop functionality. So where I am wanting to use that, so if I am actively tracking time against an action, so if I click on start there, so you'll see there the red icon is now displayed instead of the grey one, giving me that visual indicator that I'm actively tracking time against that action. The additional feature that we've added in is we had some customers requesting the ability to export the data table as a CSV quickly. So rather than exporting the entire thing as a PDF, they just want to export the data table. So up in the top right here, we've now got a CSV export button. So that allows us to, if we just click that, it's simply going to download the Gantt chart as a CSV file. So this is only the data table. So opening that up, you can see what it's done is exported the entire Gantt chart data table to give me that information that I can then go and use as required. So jumping back in, the final thing that we've added in is displaying global holidays on the Gantt chart. So a global holiday is a holiday record that is not assigned to an individual role, or and it's not assigned to a team either. So basically just a holiday record without a role associated and without teams associated is considered a global holiday. So in that instance where it is a global holiday, it's going to be visualized on the Gantt chart to show you it's a non-working day. So in our example here, I've got Tuesday the 1st of September, so I've got a global holiday allocated to that day. So you'll see obviously it's flagging up grey that it's a non-working day. So then if we were to reschedule anything on top of that day, it would be treated as a non-working day like a weekend. So we're going to now take a look at the enhancements that have been made to the role utilization report. So from the management pad, we're going to jump in and access the role utilization report here. So up until now, what you were able to do was view the utilization figures and the billable performance figures. What I'll do is just load in some team members, and we'll take a look at the new features. So charts at the top obviously haven't changed. That's all still as it was before. But if you scroll down now for each individual person, what you can see, if I get down to my record, obviously standard information that we used to be able to see is, you know, hours per week, total hours. That's broken down between billable, non-billable holidays. I can see what my overall utilization percentage is. I then get insight into what my billable capacity is, my billable target, my billable target hours, and then my actual billable performance. So the new functionality that has been added in are these two rows here. So the ability to see what was scheduled for me during that time and how well I performed against that based on my total hours. So for example, if we take a look here, so my total hours scheduled was 32. I actually only delivered 20 hours that week. So obviously my scheduled performance was pretty low. So so we had a scenario where customers were saying, look, we don't have any interest in billable targets, but we do want to see schedule performance. So what we've done is added in the ability to obviously, you know, we've kept utilization, we've kept billable performance, but we've added in scheduled performance. So you've now got the ability to see up to those three metrics. If you don't want to see any one of these, you can turn them off within the settings. So if I scroll back up, within my settings, we've just added in some additional functionality here. So you can now choose, so you can set the breakpoints for the color coding against each section, but you can choose whether you see the utilization, whether you see the billable performance, and whether you see the schedule performance. So if you just hover over here, it will just tell you which which rows from the report will be hidden as a result of turning this feature off. So hopefully that A, gives you more insight into the metrics that are important to you, and B, gives you the flexibility to display the information that's important to you in your business. So as mentioned earlier, we've made a few minor modifications to the whiteboard. So one of the main changes is the ability to control the sort order. So obviously we've got a default sort order that we apply to the order in which actions get displayed within each one of these columns. But we've given you the ability now to actually override that. So if I jump into my settings here, and this can be done on an individual user basis or centrally from the control pad of the console. So within my whiteboard settings, if I scroll down, you'll see, the default is that the first field that is used is the whiteboard priority order. Now you can turn off whether you want to use that or not. So if you don't want to use that as the first sorting factor, disable that, and then each one of these fields indicates the field that is used to which in terms of what is used as the sorting logic. So you can now control yourself as well. So you can pick from any of the action fields plus whether you're sorting by project or milestone there, and you can also choose whether you're sorting in an ascending or descending order. So giving you a bit of flexibility around how the actions are going to be sorted within those columns. What we've also done is within the filters, we've added in a couple of additional options on what you can filter by. So previously you could only filter on the status of actions. You've now got the ability to filter based on the status of a project and or a milestone. The whiteboard priority order, so if you are using that, when we released the whiteboard in the last release, what you can do is actually drag actions up and down, and that will adjust the priority order. What was also happening is if you were to drag an action from left to right, that would actually adjust the priority order of all of the actions in that existing column. So what we've done is actually remove that part of it. So if you move it up and down, that will still adjust as normal, but if you move from left to right, it doesn't adjust the priority. So giving you the opportunity to obviously put that in and then work out what's a priority over the other work. And then the other really cool feature is we've added in what we're calling Whiteboard Anywhere. So similar to what we've already got the Gantt Anywhere, where you can drop a Gantt chart onto any parent record of a project, and you can display all of the projects relating to that record. You've now got Whiteboard Anywhere as well. So if we jump onto this account page here, so you'll see I don't currently have a whiteboard. So what I'm going to do is actually just jump in and edit that page. So just using the standard Salesforce Lightning App Builder. So first of all, I'm going to add in a new tab. So I'm just going to rename this to a custom label called Kanban. And then within that tab, I'm going to go down and grab my whiteboard, drop that in there. So then if I save that, I'll just need to activate that if I haven't already activated it. Looks like I have in this instance, so I'm just going to go back to my page. So now I've got my Kanban tab, and if I click onto that, you can see I've got my whiteboard loading up, and it's displaying all actions across all projects that relate to this Acme account. So that can be done against any record that is a parent to the project. So for example, you might want to do that at an account level, a contact level, opportunity level, whether you've added in other custom fields. You could even put it on the program as well. So hopefully you find some value out of being able to do that. So now we're going to take a look at the enhancements that have been added to the Reassignment Wizard. The reassignment allows you to reassign work from one resource to another, and you can access that from the project. So you'll see the option to access the reassignment page from a particular project. So I'm going to click into that. So the new functionality that has been added is the ability to filter what gets us reassigned based on the status. So for example, we can see here that Chris owns some milestones, he owns some actions. So if we're wanting to reassign work, so let's say we're going to give this to Amy, but then only things with a particular status value. So let's say if this action is complete, we don't want to reassign that, but we do want to assign anything that hasn't already started. We might leave what's already in progress. So what you're able to do, instead of assigning everything, you can pick and choose based on the status values to only reassign records with that status. So the other thing that we've done with the Reassignment Wizard is actually make it available from the role record. So it was initially only available from a project. What you can now do is actually on an individual person's role record, you can access that Reassignment Wizard from here as well. Now, what this lets me do is, so for example, let's say Andrea's left the business or she's just gone on long-term leave and we need to reassign work. What I can do is, rather than finding all of the individual projects that she's assigned to, I can come along here and reassign to one individual person. And again, I can leave everything that was already complete, but I can pick and choose and reassign the stuff that is planned, in progress, and so on. So providing me with the ability to do that mass reassignment at an individual resource level, as well as from a project perspective. Okay, that's everything that we're going to take a look at during the demo. So let's now look at what the release schedule looks like. So as I mentioned, it's available for you to manually upgrade directly from the App Exchange on the 28th of August. On the 5th of September, it will automatically be upgraded to all sandbox orgs. And on the 12th of September, it will be automatically upgraded to all production orgs. Any questions, obviously, as always, please feel free to get in touch with us. And with that said, I would like to thank you for your time today. Hope you're as excited as we are with all those new features. And obviously, rest assured, we're already well underway with the next release, and look forward to sharing all of that with you later in the year. Any questions, please get in touch. Thanks. Bye.